the woman known to history as Countess Elizabeth Bathory de Echet, or the Blood Countess, murderer of 650 young women, was born on the 7th of August 1560 at her family estate in Nyírbátor in the east of the Kingdom of Hungary, 146 miles from Budapest.
See all these questions that you have? You're in the perfect space, because Isla Mac, our co-host, is actually a specialist on all that jazz or jizz that you're talking about.
Isla, I know that, when we criticize some of the things that we're seeing in gay culture, I think there is the fear of being homophobic. Is this homophobic? Are we being, mean to gay men? There is a lot of degradation and dehumanization of women in gay male culture that I think we should be able to talk about. I don't think we should be afraid to talk about misogyny wherever it comes from. I don't think we should be in a space, in a headspace where no, we can't criticize gay men because that's homophobic.
I've actually spent my life with gay men and within the gay community.
And Princess Diana, sorry for fucking.
It's not that I'm naive to it. It's just that, and obviously, I spend a lot of time with them now. I just think, when I've got a public role and I'm, showing my face and I'm having public arguments with people, I just find it easier to. There's some arguments are more difficult than others. When gay men, homosexuality gets sort of drawn into discussions about gender ideology and the kind of heteronormativity thing. And I think it's important to separate those out because, personally speaking, lesbianism, bisexuality, gay men, heterosexuals, sexuality is not the same as gender ideology.
So I understand that and I'm not sure anyone's political leanings here, right? But a lot of people on the political right, they like to think, okay, well, homosexuality, we can accept that, but then like transgenderism and pedophilia, that will push back against, that needs to be unacceptable. And they think that they could sort of like split the thing in half. I don't really think that that's possible. I think it's all a package deal.
They couldn't give two fucks about us, about our safety or anything like that. We cannot appeal to their conscience.
I'm sorry, I think it's a really difficult one there because you do end up straying into a kind of, what is homophobia and what is the territory of breaking up the, what does transsexualism and the boundary issue comprise? I think it's a dangerous issue.
Oh, now I stepped into it.
All the drag queen hours are gay men. The people that are naked in the streets in Pride are gay men. Trans women are gay men.
Leave the fucking LGB alone, right? Leave them alone and do your own thing, because for me, I don't find it very strange.
I'm thinking in particular younger gay men, in particular. They should be aware that when the backlash comes, it will affect them.
I'm really concerned. There was a dad and his daughter identified as transgender at age 12. This dad was at the point where he said he wanted to kill someone. And what I'm concerned is when that level of rage is coming from a dad, it can be directed at the gay community.
It is, at the end of the day, the gay community that is going to have to deal with the repercussions of this. There's not, what was it somebody said the other day, there's not a single lesbian that doesn't know at least one or two others who are identifying as men now.
I don't give a damn. I'm over trying to comfort people who don't like gay people and don't like trans people. I don't care anymore. We're going to continue doing what we're going to do. Fuck you and your children. I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn if people are saying they're going to come for your children. It's not like they're going into your house, stealing your children, taking them out, and doing whatever the God thing you think that they're going to do to your children.
Whenever I saw that video, we're here, we're queer, and it said, there was somebody talking over it, saying, we're coming for your children. I I know there was like one little tiny sort of bit of that, but I worry about that video because what I saw was not the same, and I know that the San Francisco choir that was very disturbing.
If you're a parent listening into the space, since we've got a lot of people who are new here, and probably got a lot of parents maybe listening in, I can't recommend highly enough my co-host Isla Bank's YouTube channel. And more importantly, Isla also offers herself up and her time very generously as a resource to help you.
Right, I've started a new group, a new project. I'm starting a project gathering up all the autistic people. We really, really need to pay really big attention now to LGB children and autistic children. Essentially, most of them are autistic, to be frank. And the other thing that's important to keep in mind is that this all relates to people under the age of 18, because of course once you hit the barrier of 16 plus and absolutely 17, these people are being fast-tracked, these children and then adolescents and young adults are being fast-tracked into this system.
Now, this is where I don't agree that the GRA should be completely scrapped, and I know not everybody here agrees with me. I do believe that there are some people who are suffering, and that the only way they will benefit mentally, if you like, for their health, is that they get support and they're able to change the gender that they live in. I do believe some people are suffering from a mental health issue, and they need support. I don't believe getting rid of the GRA is now that it's in place, is a good idea.
We need to, I don't know whether we need to, but there should be a definition of like, what are trans women, men, trans identifying men, like what are they? Because there are people who are genuinely suffering from gender dysphoria.
All the drag queen hours are gay men. The people that are naked in the streets in Pride are gay men, you know.
I think we need to, in the first instance, get rid of these gender stereotypes that everybody is being shoved into.
You cannot have gender identity or transgender identity and safeguarding. It's one or the other. And when I went on the Stephen Nolan show and made this point about safeguarding, he tried to bring homosexuality into it as if to say that since men were at risk of gay men, I don't even know for sure what his point was. I'd have to listen back. But he brought in the whole idea of sharing spaces with homosexuals.
It's getting pushed off as this thing that just regular gays and lesbians and bisexuals are having to deal with.
Trans women are gay men. I mean, you can't take gay out of it.
In many cases, long before the GRA, as I said earlier, the falsification of passports and driver's license was a matter of policy long before the GRA. So that I did want to respond on that legal point, because I think it's a common misunderstanding that it was a well-meant thing, this GRA. I think it was a highly cynical move after decades of hard work by lobbyists to replace sex with gender identity in law, because these are people who hate the fact of their sex and the reality of their sex and want to compel other people to pretend that they have actually changed sex via this nebulous idea of gender.
You can't take gay out of it.
To be honest, I think if you, as women, if you live long enough, you'll all become lesbians eventually. The Pink Carbon was in the room, and he made some comment. I think he was a co-host as well. He made some comment along the lines of, yeah, you don't have to have protected sex as long as you have PrEP afterwards.
The CEO, Richard Angle of the Terence Higgins Trust, said that one of the key tools in the arsenal of defeating HIV without a cure or vaccination was gender-affirming care, and that gender-affirming care prevents the transmission of HIV and therefore AIDS. Your opinion, please?
There are no words in the multiverse for me to actually respond to that utter bullshit.
I genuinely don't think Pink's doing that.
Pink's quite open about what he talks about as well, and he has said in a space quite a few times that whoever his partner is, they've got an open relationship, so actually, you know, they can go out and have sex with other people.
Yeah, but he's also very he's a big proponent for PrEP.
And then once you've got them doing the hypersexual content, you'll notice that they direct them all to the HIV clinics. Literally reject them. Like you can click on one like Inclusive WA, and it's the third party educator, and then it sends you to a link for all your resources, and it just takes you straight to PrEP. Which
he is very much a big proponent for PrEP. You do realize that people record us all the time and clip us.
Yes, I do understand that. Right, but the more you fucking
And that's
put in
exactly
and
what
not
that's exactly why I made the point. Right.
That I do think the sort of like, you know, you get someone like that's shown us to be relatively important within a community and gets top line co-hosting.
Isla Mac, our co-host, is actually a specialist.
I can't recommend highly enough my co-host Isla Mac's YouTube channel.
He should be a little bit more concerned about saying things like, you know, yeah, you can have what's his name, sex without a problem.
I understand that.
See all these questions that you have? Isla Mac is actually a specialist on all that jazz or jizz.
I just find it easier to. There's some arguments are more difficult than others.
James Cantor, in fact, when he submitted his proposition of destigmatizing paraphilias in ICD-11 a couple of years ago, and he argued as to why paraphilias are normal and now they're classified, he argued successfully, under various patterns of sexual arousal, so they're actually depathologized. If I'm seeing a person like your average AGP who you see on TikTok, of course AGP is a paraphilia, but I'm unable to actually say he's got a paraphilic disorder, because which person is going to say that, oh, I also get attracted to children? That's not how it works. And what you also see, which is a well-established fact, which is that all paraphilias, so the reason most of them transition in 50s, 40s is that there is this intense association of shame, and then it builds on. Life gets in the way, so they're hiding in the closet and doing things, and these are the people who are extremely dangerous. I think, so your question is asking me about the younger people who are actually coming up with gender dysphoria, transgender. So what we see is, so usually they're overwhelmingly neurodiverse.
Right, I've started a new group, a new project. I'm starting a project gathering up all the autistic people, gathering up.
See all these
The
questions that
macabre
you have?
tastes in
You're in
literature
the
in the
perfect
18th
space.
and early 19th centuries resulted in a caricature of Elizabeth, which conceals as much about her as it reveals. From rumours of lesbianism to the determined tracing of satanic teachings through her family tree and acquaintances. Perhaps these stories of demonic cults and sinister connections originated from the common belief at the time that women were not capable of violence for its own sake, or perhaps thinking of her as a supernatural and demonic monster was easier to palate than the realization that an ordinary woman might commit such crimes. The modern world seems determined to remember Elizabeth as the Bloody Countess. Her work as an educator of young girls, as a countess and supporter of war widows, and her own intellectual achievements have been hugely overshadowed by these rumours of barbarity that can never be proved or disproved. While it is certain that Elizabeth lived at a time when wealthy, powerful, and isolated women were targeted with accusations of witchcraft and demon worship, the extent of her supposed crimes seems almost too large to have been entirely made up. On the one hand, it seems likely that Elizabeth was caught up in a conspiracy. On the other hand, it seems incontrovertible that Elizabeth was unusually cruel to her servants, and that too many young daughters of the gentry died in her care to have been caused by accident or epidemic. What do you think of Elizabeth Bathory, the Blood Countess? Was she guilty of 600 grisly murders, or was she merely an unusually sadistic but powerful woman who had many enemies?